My name is Keith Evans. I was the regional director for migrant education programs from 1965 through 1980. Our programs encompassed the 5 counties, starting at Manistee and working north. And in the various counties, we established programs during the harvest season. And normally, the high point was for the cherry harvest. And in order to serve the number of migrant families and children that were here, we ended up with a total of 10 schools in those 5 counties. And at the height of our service to migrant families, we had over 4,000 children. That includes daycare, nursery, up to about age 14. The older children would be helping the families harvest, so they were normally not in school, but we did hire some who could speak both Spanish and English as aides in the school, and I'm sure they were paid more than they could have earned picking cherries, because many of the families determined how much the kids would get paid based on what the parents decided to pay them to help. But I would like to say that it was very gratifying to see the progress that the children made in the period of time that they were here for the weeks while they were picking cherries. We also had education and recreation programs for adults. This was carried on in the evenings and as well as weekends, and that provided them some opportunity to do something besides work and worry. It was very gratifying, frankly, to provide services not only to the young people in our schools and also to the adults, but we found that some of them had managed to be graduating or have graduated and were looking for some way to go on to college for further training. And we were able to find some of these youngsters and provide them with scholarships to assist them in their additional learning. I'd have to say that we didn't see too many families settle out. We did talk with a number of them about that because they would be asking what opportunities were there available to them besides harvesting. And because of the lack of skilled training or lack of education, or for that matter, the fact that some of them were not very fluent in English, it was pretty difficult to find them an opportunity in the way of a job in this area. But we did have a few settled out and that managed to stay. More of them were inclined to want to settle out where there was a base group in their ethnic group. Spanish Americans were more apt to settle out in communities where there were other Spanish Americans simply because of the language, if nothing else. In those 16 years that I had to work with the migrants, I'd have to say that they were years that were exceptionally satisfactory to see the young children improve constantly, many of them leaving school from their home state early and getting back late. One thing which I felt was very important, I had an opportunity to go to Texas to meet with representatives from other states where migrants were working to work on a computer sheet to help prevent duplication of nothing else, physical exams, because we work with local doctors to provide physical exams for the children. We hired registered nurses for each center in the 10 schools to try to help maintain good health. And the purpose of the meeting in Texas was to develop a computerized sheet that when we gave physicals to the children in our schools, we would document that information and put it in the computer so that when they went to the next center in whatever state, they would not have to be given duplicate physical exams. We also gave information on success in school relative to achievement in the education things, such as language development. They were teaching a variety of classes like you would in the regular school system to try to promote continued education for the children. I'd like to share with you the writings of a young lady who was in our educational program here, and on July 9th she wrote, "Today was the first day of school. My teacher told me it would be a good idea to keep a diary, so I will. She said it would help me to learn better English and it would be fun. I want to be a writer of great books when I am old enough. Every night before I go to bed I will write in my diary. I am not going to tell anyone I am writing this because they would think it was muy tonto, especially the boys. Joni, that is the name of my teacher, said I could write in here anything I want to." July 10th, Tuesday. "My family is Chicano, that is, we are Mexican American. When we are not traveling around, we live in San Antonio, Texas. We have a small house there, and that is where all my friends live. I have many friends. In our family we have 22 people. That includes my mother, my father, my grandparents, and all of the children. My oldest brother, Ruben, is 23. His wife and 3 children live with us. My next oldest brother, Sergio, age 20. His wife and their 2 children also live with us. Maria is next. She is 19. She has a boyfriend who lives in San Antonio. Then me, Miguel, and 14 years old. I am 14 years old. Then is Cassandra, age 13. She is all right for a sister. Pedro is 10, Lupe 9, Manuel 8, Jose 7, Alfonso 5, and my baby sister Adriana is 1. At home we speak both Spanish and English. My grandparents speak only Spanish. They both refuse to learn any English at all. English is the second language to my family. We all know it very well. My father insists we use English because he says it is very important to be able to speak the language of the country we are living in as well as our native tongue. I think I am very lucky to know 2 languages as equally well." On July 19th, she wrote this, "I helped pick the cherries Tuesday and Wednesday. I picked 5 lugs on Tuesday and 6 on Wednesday. A lug is 28 pounds. We are paid 75 cents per lug. My father gives me a dime for every lug I pick. That is good because many fathers do not give their children anything. I went to school today. I had to tell Joni that I will only be coming to school 2 or 3 days a week because I can if it rains. I can go to school on those days too. In school we are learning arithmetic and reading. We get to school about 8:30 in the morning. We go to our rooms and wash up. Then we have our breakfast in the cafeteria. We have cold cereal, oatmeal, pancakes, or eggs. After breakfast, we wash up and brush our teeth. We have reading, arithmetic, then gym class. After gym, we have our lunch, which is followed by 1 hour of rest time. We each have our own rug and we lay on the floor. Writing and a little social studies comes next. Then we have art or music, depending on the day. We have milk and cookies plus a little free time before we go home at 3:30. We are lucky to have milk in school because we barely ever get it at home. When we do buy milk for home, the old refrigerator we have makes it sour before it is all gone. We get on the buses, and all the teachers and aides who do not have to ride the bus stand by the doors and wave to us. Going home is the saddest part of the whole day. She writes a number of other things here, but it gives you some idea of what happens in our schools that we provided at that time, and also something about the family and the interactions within the family. And this is, I think, somewhat typical to have an extended family. I recalled several times that extended families were able to come in an old beat-up bus with mucho people crowded together, to say the least. And in many of the farm homes, you might say, it was a tight squeeze. Sometimes they had to get 2 or 3 people in a small bed in order to, in fact, accommodate the whole family to be there to harvest the crops. The number of the families that settled out were small compared to the 50,000 or so that generally came into the state to help harvest. More wanted to settle out, but the possibility of finding a job in a foreign country, so to speak, especially if you weren't really fluent in English, was by and large really difficult, and very, very few were able to, in fact, settle out in this area. There are some, and some have been here and have been successful, and that's wonderful. But unfortunately, many of the others did not have the skills or the language development to, in fact, settle in this area. We did have one young lady who worked in our central office, Lupita Nahar, who was bilingual, and every once in a while had been able, over those past 16 years, communicate with her, and she's doing well. And she was really an asset to our office to help us do the job that we were expected to do. I'd have to say those years that I worked in this migrant program were very satisfactory, very satisfying also. My first experience with migrants was when I was a young man growing up in East Jordan. I used to have to go out and pick crops too, and had the opportunity to pick cherries and beans and what have you with migrants at that time, and I was impressed at their work ethic, how hard they would work from daylight to dark. They had to earn as much as possible in order to try to exist at the time. And I did learn a few words from the Spanish-American boys, but I'm not going to repeat them. Thanks for the opportunity to, in fact, share some of my experiences in the migrant program and with the people involved. We did have more than Spanish-American people. We had some blacks, we had some poor whites that were also involved, but Spanish-Americans were the predominant workforce. And to watch them dwindle, you might say, because of mechanization, I'm sure some of them wish they still had the job available for them, but times change, and as a result, people have to adjust. Thank you.